In 2012, Formula One gave us one of the most chaotic and entertaining seasons in its modern history. 8 different race winners from 6 different teams across the year. At one point, the first 7 Grand Prix of the season all had different winners, including Pastor Maldonado in a Williams in Barcelona. But just 1 year later, in 2013, under essentially the same regulations, Sebastian Vettel and Red Bull closed the season with 9 wins in a row. How did Formula One move from complete unpredictability to one of the most dominant streaks we've ever seen, without a major rule change in between? In this video, we'll break down why 2012 and 2013 felt so different even under the same rulebook, from blown diffusers to Pirelli's tyre experiments to the shadow of the 2014 regulations. If you enjoy proper F1 context instead of just headlines, remember to like the video and subscribe to Apex Racing Desk.
Let's start with 2012 and why the competitive order was so unstable. On paper, there were 2 big ingredients behind the chaos that year. First, the effective banning of the blown diffuser. Second, a radical approach from Pirelli with its tyre philosophy. Up to 2011, some teams were using their exhausts to blow hot gases directly over the rear diffuser. This increased the diffuser's efficiency and generated a lot more downforce, especially in slow and medium-speed corners. Red Bull, in particular, had mastered this concept. They even developed engine maps that kept exhaust flow high even when the driver was off throttle, stabilizing the rear of the car in corner entry and mid-corner. For 2012, the FIA tightened the rules on exhaust positioning and engine maps so heavily that this off-throttle blowing was essentially removed. That hit Red Bull's 2011 advantage hard. But the real chaos came from Pirelli's tyres. Pirelli had only just taken over as F1's sole supplier, and the sport had asked them for rubber that would degrade faster, create more pit stops, and open up strategy. So Pirelli compressed the gap between compounds. Even the harder tyres weren't designed to last that long. The result, teams struggled to understand tyre behavior from track to track. Some cars switched on the tyres brilliantly at certain venues and then destroyed them at others. That's how we got 7 different winners in the first 7 races, including that shock victory for Pastor Maldonado and Williams in Spain. In that environment, Ferrari managed to find a decent compromise across different circuits. Fernando Alonso turned that into raw consistency, podiums, opportunistic wins, and almost no big mistakes in the first half of the year. Halfway through the season, Alonso led the championship, with the most podiums and wins, and a 34-point cushion over Mark Webber. McLaren, on the other hand, often looked like they had the fastest car, but they kept tripping over themselves. Reliability problems, strategy errors, slow pit stops, you name it. In Spain, for example, Lewis Hamilton lost a pole position after qualifying because he ran out of fuel and couldn't return to the pits. He was sent from first to the back of the grid. And then, in the second half of the year, 2 things happened at once. Red Bull finally understood the Pirelli tyres and unlocked more performance from the RB8. Vettel took 4 consecutive wins after round 14, jumping from 4th in the standings to the championship lead with 3 races to go. At the same time, Alonso suffered 2 costly first-lap retirements at Spa and Suzuka. For a driver who was building his title challenge on consistency, those DNFs were devastating. The title fight went all the way to that famous finale in Interlagos, and Vettel came out on top.
Look at 2013 from a distance, and it feels like total domination from Red Bull and Vettel.
But the start of 2013 was not as straightforward as the end suggests. Once again, a big part of the story is Pirelli's tyres. For 2013, Pirelli changed the construction of the tyre carcass, the structure underneath the tread. Even though the overall regulations stayed almost identical, this new construction changed how the tyres behaved and how the cars had to be set up. Red Bull came into 2013 still carrying over some of the technical strength they'd shown in the second half of 2012. Vettel was immediately the most consistent driver, which allowed him to lead the championship from very early on. But the first 10 races actually produced 5 different winners from 4 different teams. So while it wasn't as wild as 2012, the start of 2013 still had some variety and uncertainty. The turning point came when Pirelli found itself under massive pressure. The 2013 tyres were causing several high-profile problems, including delaminations and failures, and many teams and fans were unhappy. In response, from the Hungarian Grand Prix onwards, Pirelli reverted to a construction much closer to what it had used in 2012. And remember how strong Red Bull and Vettel had been with those tyres at the end of 2012? With the 2012-style construction back on the cars and an already very refined RB9, the field balance tipped completely. From Hungary onwards, Vettel won 9 races in a row. The same set of rules that had allowed chaos in 2012 now produced one of the most dominant runs in F1 history.
There's one more important piece to the 2013 puzzle. 2014 was coming. 2014 brought one of the biggest regulation changes Formula One had ever seen, especially on the engine side, with the new V6 turbo hybrids, but also with major chassis and aero changes. That meant teams were splitting their resources. How much do you keep developing your 2013 car, and how much do you save for the brand new 2014 project? Once Red Bull and Vettel pulled away after the tyre change, many rivals decided that chasing them was no longer worth the investment. If you're already behind and next year's rules are totally different, you're better off focusing on the future. So by the end of 2013, Red Bull were effectively racing against less and less development effort from the rest of the field. That's one reason why the last part of the season looked even more one-sided than it might have under normal development conditions. So, why were 2012 and 2013 so different, despite sharing the same basic rulebook? Because regulations on paper are only part of the story. In 2012, you had the sudden loss of Red Bull's blown diffuser advantage, wild, unpredictable Pirelli tyres that nobody fully understood, and multiple teams still pushing hard to develop through the year. In 2013, you had a new tyre construction that initially created some variety, a mid-season switchback to 2012-style tyres, perfectly suited to Red Bull's strengths, and the looming 2014 regulation change, which led many teams to reduce development on their 2013 cars. The rules may have been the same, but the tyres, development priorities and political pressure on Pirelli were completely different. That's why one year gave us 7 different winners in 7 races, and the next gave us a 9-race winning streak from a single driver. What about you? Which season do you prefer? The chaos of 2012 or the pure dominance of late 2013 Vettel? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Apex Racing Desk for more F1 history, technical context and proper analysis.